I think from an educational standpoint, what we learn here is just how out of control not only our federal government has become, but the federal court system as a whole. I mean, just the very statements of this judge in that courtroom today gives us an indication of the mentality of our federal courtrooms. He said we have the Second Amendment. I mean, I took notes here. He said we have the Second Amendment in the Constitution, but it is what the Supreme Court says it is. No. That's the whole point of having it in writing, so that one branch of the federal government cannot usurp the rights of the people based on their opinions.
Amen.
And just because we want to quote that a Supreme Court justice who has a reputation of being conservative says that there can be placed reasonable restrictions on our rights doesn't make it so.
That's right.
See, I want these guys to read Federalist Papers 84, where the biggest government guy, Alexander Hamilton, said, we don't need to make a list of our rights because the government will say, if we have a list, we can regulate those rights. The very warning that Hamilton gave us is coming to fruition because we are not teaching the truth to American people, in our law schools, in our courtrooms. He said, the 10th Circuit grades my homework, and I have been reversed many times. But he then said, it's up to me. He said, I follow the law as best as I am to determine. How do you reconcile that a single man sitting on the bench can determine the limitations of his own power and his own law? He says the Supreme Court announces the supreme law of the land, and the circuit courts also announce the supreme law of the land. No, I'm sorry. We announced that in 1789.
Yeah!
The United States ratified it to be true. The document says we say it's to be true. The document says it is the supreme law of the land, and it is not up to the courts to rewrite or to create opinions that act as law.
Amen.
And if they are not complying with the Constitution, they are no more lawful than if the president is writing an executive order that is not in compliance to the Constitution.
Amen.
Or Congress is creating a law that's not in compliance to the Constitution. There is no such thing as an independent judiciary. Men are not void of bias, opinion. They are not void of outside influence. And we've got to realize that. When you have an arbitrary person sitting on a bench saying, I am the limit of the law, that is not why we have a constitution. That's the definition of a banana republic.
Yep.
Hey.
We have a constitution, a written supreme law of the land to guard us from the will of people, to preserve our rights when the fickle populace says, no, we don't agree with that anymore. The purpose of the Constitution is so that everyone has equal protection under the law, not based on how somebody has opined themselves to do that.